Thanks for joining us today. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon in Seoul. Before we get started, let's take a quick check on today's highlights. Korea's Hyundai Motor Group seems to be losing ground in the Chinese auto market as local car producers roll out cheaper vehicles to win over more customers. What stories made headlines in global business news this week? Beware, robots might take away more jobs from humans than we expected, while U.S. President Barack Obama is campaigning hard for renewable energy. Korea's ruling Saenuri Party plans to introduce bills related to free trade agreements at the National Assembly early next week to push ahead with their ratification. Saenuri Party lawmaker Na Kyung-won, who is also the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee chair, sent a notice regarding such plans to all party committee members on Thursday. She said a committee plenary meeting would be held next Monday to obtain signatures for the passage of 5 FTA-related bills, including one on the Korea-China FTA. Korea's capital, Seoul, has been a hive of activity with people buying and selling homes at record numbers in recent months. Figures released by Seoul's Real Estate Information Office on Friday show that a record number of real estate transactions have been carried out each month since the start of this year. The number of transactions in August has reached almost 9,500, the largest figure since data were kept in 2006, surpassing the previous August record of 8,300 in 2009. The office has attributed boom to a decline in people renting and an increase in those opting to buy. The steady rise in property prices and an increase in supply of new apartments on the market have made purchasing a more attractive option for home buyers. Korea's top automaker Hyundai Motor Group is losing ground in the lucrative Chinese auto market due to competition from local brands. Sounds familiar? It's almost like the smartphone market, troubled by makers like China's Xiaomi. For more on the competition, here's our Shin Se-min.
Despite the steep decline in growth in China's local economy, its local automakers are all smiles, enjoying robust sales. Chinese local automakers have put Korea's top auto brand, Hyundai Motor Group, to the test. Looking at the figures, Chinese manufacturer Changan Automobile sold 446,000 units, experiencing over 53% growth in the first 7 months of this year compared to last year. The country's largest SUV maker, Great Wall Motors, posted on-year growth of 31%, selling over 390,000 units in the same period. That's a 16% hike on-year for Changan and 8% for Great Wall Motors in the month of July. In contrast, Korea's Hyundai Motors saw sales drop nearly 11% in the January to July period, while its sister company, Kia Motors, saw sales crimped by over 6% on year. The firms took up a total of 7.5% of China's market share, below the 10% mark it recorded in May. Korean automakers aren't the only companies taking a hit in the Chinese market. Last month, Volkswagen Group saw sales nosedive by nearly 30% on year, and General Motors also shed 24%. Industry officials say it all boils down to cheaper prices. With Chinese automakers turning out more affordable vehicles at less than half the price of its foreign competitors, experts say it's becoming much more difficult to win over local drivers as many look for ways to cut spending in the slowing economy. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
And from China to Korea, competition among car makers in the large sedan market is about to get fiercer. With foreign brand cars gaining more ground in the country, what can Korean car manufacturers do to stay competitive? Here's our Lee Ji-young with more.
General Motors' iconic full-size sedan, the Chevrolet Impala, made its grand debut in Korea this month. It's the first time GM has broken into the large sedan market in Korea, where growth has recently been slow due to a lack of new models and the growing popularity of SUVs. GM said the rollout of its iconic sedan is to target car buyers who want to express their individuality and enjoy advanced technological improvements and premium features.
Is to offer more technology, more comfort, more spacious, more sophisticated design, better powertrain performance, all this more with a lower price.
As a latecomer to the full-size sedan market, the company has adopted the most aggressive pricing policy in its history. It set the price tag of its Impala in Korea below that of the U.S. market, fetching anywhere from $28,000 to $35,000. The launch comes as sales in Korea of import cars continue to increase. The market penetration rate of foreign brands hit a record 15% at the end of June, according to Korea Automobile Importers and Distributors Association. While more foreign brand cars continue to make great strides into Korea, experts say domestic car brands like Hyundai Motor will fight back by speeding up the release of its new grandeur. Kia is also likely to pull forward its scheduled debut of its K7, along with Renault Samsung that has already rolled out the SM7 Nova sedan earlier this month. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
With a total of 17 new innovation centers up and running now here in Korea, a special festival is underway to highlight the achievements made so far and to look at the support offered for startups by these centers. Our Kim In-ji has the story.
Turning ideas into reality has been a key role of the nation's innovation centers. And this company has come up with the world's first smartwatch for the visually impaired, which make up about 285 million of the world's population.
And you get data from the messages, but the only difference is it has a surface with the braille, so you can read any data in your fingers.
If this is not impressive enough, then how about a conductive material that can heat up water almost instantly?
This coating material uses transparent conductive technology to heat up water to 500 degrees Celsius instantly. Water heaters usually need a separate tank to store hot water and have many technical problems. This technology scraps those concerns, and it can be used in various areas, from households to industrial sectors.
The festival offers a sneak peek into how creative economy innovation centers have been supporting startups and gives companies an opportunity to showcase their ideas that only existed on paper until now. Innovation centers have been the core of President Baekhyun's drive for a creative economy, aimed at turning creative ideas into real business opportunities to create new jobs and industries.
이제 17개 혁신센터가 본격적으로 가동됨에 따라서 혁신센터의 크고 작은 성과들이 우리 경제의 새로운 성장 모멘텀이 되어서 대한민국 전역에 창조 경제의 불꽃으로 활활 타오르기를 기대합니다.
The centers have so far supported some 530 small and medium-sized venture companies, attracting nearly $27 million in investment and creating sales of over $15 million. Kim In-ji, Business Daily, Daejeon.
Well, it's that time of the week again to take a look at a few global business news that made headlines this week. For that, we check in with our Eunice Kim. Hello there, Eunice.
Hello, Ji-yoon. Well, let's begin with some developments over at the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, shall we? On Monday, representatives of 54 founding countries elected Jin Li-chin as the China-led lending body's first president. Xinhua News Agency reported the vote to tap the nominee, who was China's former vice finance minister, was unanimous. Before his current role as head of AIIB's interim secretariat, Mr. Jin held leadership posts at the Asian Development Bank, as well as China's sovereign wealth fund, China Investment Corp. He still faces confirmation by the Board of Governors following the formal launch of the bank by the end of the year. The European Central Bank is ready to extend, if not expand, its quantitative easing, should the situation warrant it. Economist and ECB Executive Board member Peter Pratt told reporters on Wednesday staff are mulling over new projections as slumping commodity prices and other global economic risks stood to threaten the bank's 2% inflation goal. Last month, inflation came in at only 0.2%. The Governing Council, which sets policies, is set to meet next week to discuss the adjusted inflation and growth forecasts. A U.S. research firm has found robots may not take away as many jobs as was feared, but humans will have to learn to adapt. In its report, Forrester projected automation technology will wipe out about 16% of American jobs in the next 10 years. While task-based jobs like those in sales, construction, and office support were vulnerable, it said a demand for new robot-linked professions will emerge, like those related to their repair and maintenance. It forecasts the net job loss will be around 7%, or 9.1 million jobs, much lower than an earlier Oxford study's projection of 47%. Forrester said companies will have to manage and train their workers for the automation shift that also includes working with software that can quickly process large amounts of data.
All right, I guess another concern that requires plenty of planning would be global warming. NASA recently announced that the Earth's average sea level rose by 8 centimeters in past 23 years. Now, on that note, I heard that U.S. President Barack Obama is campaigning pretty hard for renewable energy.
You're right. President Obama has been calling climate change actually one of the security threats to the U.S. security. And in fact, he went on to say it was the greatest threat to America's security. And with less than 17 months to go in his final term, he's been busy pitching ways to change how America uses energy.
On the day oil dropped below $45 a barrel, U.S. President Barack Obama was pushing for a new way to look at power, away from coal-burning operations to using renewable resources.
Today, we're announcing new public and private sector commitments that will add new solar capacity on more than 40 military bases. And that's an investment that will create jobs, save taxpayer dollars, and reduce emissions.
To the individual homeowner, he said he was working on unloading the initial cost burden of installing rooftop solar panels by expanding a program that would let people pay for them over time through reduced property taxes.
A lot of Americans are going solar and becoming more energy efficient, not because they're tree huggers, but because they're cost cutters. They like saving money.
This is in line with his administration's Clean Power Plan, launched earlier this month. It presented an aggressive goal to cut 32% carbon dioxide produced by coal-fired power plants, the biggest offender, accounting for about a third of all of America's emissions. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon commended the U.S. leader as momentum gathers around the world ahead of the Paris Climate Change Conference in December.
This is a hugely important and visionary leadership. U.S. can and will be able to change the world in addressing a climate phenomenon.
But Obama is facing plenty of opposition. At least 6 state governors have rejected guidelines to submit plans on cutting carbon emissions. Other opponents warn this shift to renewables would drive up energy costs, while still others claim the 32% goal is simply detached from reality.
Well, Eunice, I can imagine resistance from the fossil fuel industry and others would be pretty intense. But President Obama's drive for this renewable energy continues, and I hear that he's taking his message to other U.S. states, including the state of Alaska.
That's right. And before we get to that, he was in fact in New Orleans yesterday, where you'll remember it was devastated by Hurricane Katrina. It's been 10 years since that. Yeah, and that was Hurricane Katrina, the biggest natural calamity to hit the United States in recent memory. And on Monday, he will head to Alaska's Arctic region, the first sitting U.S. president to do so, where he's expected to highlight the effects of global warming. And some villages there have had to face relocation, June, because their town was literally swallowed up by the ocean because of the Arctic melt.
Right. And aside from that, there are also growing pressure on global leaders to reach a pact at the UN Climate Change Conference, which is roughly 100 days away from now.
That's right.
How do things look on that?
Well, there are hopeful signs, I can say. The European Union has pledged, for example, a 40% reduction in emissions below 1990 levels by the year 2030. And major emitters, China and the U.S., as you can see here, have announced goals as well. Beijing saying that it will peak its carbon dioxide pollution by the year 2030, after which point it will see that level taper. And though China is better known for being the biggest carbon polluter, it's actually growing its reliance on renewables. As one expert said, it's becoming the biggest market for renewable energy technology in the world. And the U.S. government has set aside $1 billion, Ji-yoon, for research into renewable energies, which is expected to update actually quite outdated energy infrastructure in the United States.
All right, so let's hope to see more cooperation among world leaders for our environment.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today, Eunice.
Sure thing.
And that does it for this edition of Business Daily. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and have a great day, everyone.